Okay, 2 spring compressors and it's still not working for me. Clearly not reading this right, so I'm going to have another crack from a different direction at some point. Okay, so I think I was making it harder than it had to be. Apparently, I just did it with one. Excuse the double chins. Right, just need a bit of brute force and luck. What? I'm going to take my face out. Come on, I've done it once. I'm worried about trapping my fingers. Right. God, this is going to be fun putting back together. Nearly there. I don't let go now. 1, 2, 3. Good. Oh, there she blows. Oh, that was hard work. So, here we have 1 collar, 1 spring, 2nd spring, and a plastic thingy. Obviously we've got the shock absorber. So, I got the shock absorbers dismantled last night for cleaning. My original plan was to take these springs to the zinc platers, which I did do. I had a chat with them and they said because they are chrome plated, the zinc will stick to it, but when the spring flexes during compression, because the zinc doesn't adhere very well to the existing chrome plating, it will probably flake off, crack and flake off. So I've opted not to go down that route because it would be quite difficult to get rid of that coating that's on there. These black ones I will almost certainly paint, so that'll make those more presentable. The plastic pieces, this sleeve, can be cleaned up, and the shock itself can be cleaned up and possibly painted as well. As it's a crappy day out there, and I've got 1,000 jobs I could choose from, but this is on my desk at the moment, I think I'll just give these a basic clean. I'm just using Wonder Wipes to get the worst of the grime off. If I am going to clean them, oh actually, dismantle. There we go. Another part I didn't know came off. You see there's a lot of crap under there. The shocks themselves are actually quite basic, there's not a lot to them. I've never had a shock apart like this before. Obviously I'm not taking the unit itself apart as it's a sealed unit. I'm not quite sure what Hagon is, whether it's a brand or a type of shock absorber. It'd be nice to get rid of that label and maybe paint those silver or even black to hide them. With this particular shock absorber, this mounting rubber is partially hanging out at the mount. I'm wondering if it's worth taking that out if I'm going to repaint the shop. It would save the rubber getting contaminated with 2-pack paints later on. So I'm going to attempt, on this one anyway, just see what the setup is, to knock this bushing out using a socket. It may or may not work. I may regret doing this. I'll try a slightly smaller socket. Might be the size of the socket that's causing issues. Try that one. Ah, there we go. I think it was the socket. Okay, so that's one bushing. That's a smooth bore, so that should, in theory, just pop back in when I need it to. Yeah, that's fine. Good, I feel more comfortable now. And do it with the other end. Okay, a bit of polishing. I stuck it on the pillar drill and spun it around. It took a little while actually to get it clean. It's aluminium and there's a lot of scratches in it, still are. As you can see, there are areas where you just can't get at. But yeah, it's come up quite nicely. It actually looks quite smart when it's back on the bike, all painted up. Yeah, you should get a nice contrast once it's back on the bike. It's not perfect, never will be, but it looks alright. Pleased with that. That's that's the plastic bushing from the shock absorber. Progressive grades of sandpaper and wet and dry have brought it down to not a perfect but not a bad plastic finish again. Get rid of the majority of the deep scratches and the dirt off it. Okay, so that's it, an afternoon's worth of cleaning and polishing. I'm not quite done yet, I still need to polish this spring up. This one I've done, and obviously it's not perfect, there are bits of the chrome missing. I don't know if it'll show up, but it sort of polishes up alright. So some of the rust is staining and that comes off quite well. So I've removed all of the loose paint and flaking rust. I've cleaned up the rubbers. I've cleaned the paint, flaking rusty paint off the black springs, polished the main springs. I'm really pleased with the way these came up. They took a lot of work, but that came out quite nicely. And the plastic shroud that slides onto the sleeve as well, that's come out really nicely. Bit of sanding and polishing, and it's removed most of the crap and ground in dirt and scratching. So yeah, so I mean obviously not finished because I have to paint yet, so I'd like to paint this spring, these springs. I'd like to paint the main body of the shock absorber and the ends, and that should pretty much do it for reassembly. But I'm waiting for some 2-pack primers and 2-pack black gloss to come, so I've got a few other bits and pieces like the brake hubs to do in that black gloss, so I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. Loosely assemble them back together. Incidentally, this is probably a lot of you already know, I have no idea at all, but these, I don't know what you call them, preload adjusters, are very simple pieces. They just run on a cam track, and in here there's a series of notches that allows you to rotate to the position which best suits your preload on the shock. So very, very simple. So yeah, that was an education for me. I thought it was going to be something really complicated like valves or whatever, but it just isn't. So yeah, so I'm going to pack up for today because I have truly had enough of this for one day. The frame's off for powder coating, the fixtures and fittings are all off for zinc plating. So yeah, I've got a little while to wait. I have 5 weeks to wait until the frame comes back approximately. There's a huge backlog at the powder coaters, which is not a problem for me because I have got a lot of little things to do like these shock absorbers in the meantime. The brake hubs, I've got to look at the wiring loom, which as you probably know is shot to pieces. So yeah, I've got enough on to keep me busy. Interestingly actually, with the preload unset on its lowest setting, this whole hang on, just drop that rubber. This whole assembly seems to be a lot easier to reassemble than disassembly. So if I'd realised how the preload worked, I would have done that before I disassembled it. Having said that though, the preloads were full of crap, and I'm not entirely sure they would have moved had I wanted them to. So anyway, that's me done.